Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Wardle Restorations. We're here down the other end of the Colne Valley Railway at the location of the 45163 group and their Black 5 that this week is actually departing us. So the plan for this video is to film it leaving the shed over to our delivery siding and then obviously leaving us from there by road. So in today's video we're going to speak to a couple of members about why it's going, where it's going, as well as some of the progress that they've made on this so far. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video. If you do, please do hit the thumbs up, and of course if this is your first time here, please subscribe. But yeah, let's roll the intros and find out a little bit more about 45163.
Jeremy Dunn, I'm the project leader of the 45163 Restoration Group, and I sort of been involved right from the start. Back in 1990-ish, I was chief engineer on the railway, and we just had industrial engines, and we were looking for something. This was a bit of a project, and it would be a bit more interesting, an XBR mainline engine. We'd been looking for a number of years, and we found standard class 4 tank 80072, and we had an opportunity, a sort of second refusal on that, and we thought that would be ideal for the Colne Valley Railway, large tank engine, something a bit more interesting. But we were pipped to the post by another railway that had first refusal, and we thought, oh, another 3 or 4 year wait now while something else becomes available. And only 3 weeks later I had a telephone call from them saying, oh, it's a Black 5 available if you're interested. And I thought, oh yes, let's have a look at it. And it was up at Hull Dairy Coats. It was an ex-Barry engine. It had been taken out of Barry in 1987 by the previous owner, Alan Bates, and he was a record producer that just took it to Homicide Loco Preservation Group to do the work under contract. I think the job, probably without a team of volunteers behind it, was working out a bit more expensive than he was anticipated, and although they'd started work on it, it'd all been stripped down. They'd started to have a few bits made, like a new smoke box, some new running plates, a new ash pan, the wheels had been off for being turning. The cylinders had been relined and the valves had been rebored. But at that stage the bills started stacking up, and he said, no, right, I'll put it up for sale, someone else, this is not for me. That's when we came along. We did a deal and agreed a purchase price. It was still up at Dairy Coats that time, so we had work parties going up there to preserve what's there, really, because we knew when it came to the Colne Valley, all the engineering facilities were external and it was going to sit outside for a while, so we wanted, while it was undercover, we wanted to do as much work as we could to clean it up and get some coats of paint on it. About 2002 we had the official opening. Malcolm Root cut the ribbon and we towed the engine into the shed that was towed in by steam using a traction engine, and frame was put on stands, and then serious work commenced. And it's now this year, 2024, that we finally got to the stage where we've got it on its wheels, and we've just announced an exciting future for it. We've reached a deal with Ian Riley to take the engine on as part of his fleet. The engine will remain in our ownership, but he's going to restore it at his cost and put it on the main line. Our members will be able to continue to contribute as support crew and go around with it out on the main line or to Heritage Railways it visits as owners' reps. To start with, it's just the engine frames that are going. The boiler and tender will follow, but it means we've still got work here that we can, projects that the team here can continue to work on. And when they're gone, we'll seek out other projects to keep the team together. So we've all still got a hobby to do, but exciting times to come. and we're looking forward to seeing it running on the main line, hopefully in 2027.
Then we need to move that first. Right, good morning, my name's Tony Peterson. I've been working with 45163 group since somewhere around 2012. When I started, they were doing still repairing the frames, the cylinders weren't on. So since then we've got it up to the stage where we've put the wheels on, and now we're preparing for it to leave the shed and go to Mr. Ian Riley, who's going to finish the job and run it on the main line on our behalf.
So with the 08 making its way up to 45163 shed, I asked Jeremy what his most challenging part of the project so far was, and then I asked Tony what preparations they needed to do to get this loco ready for the move.
Probably the extent of the frame repairs. We didn't realise quite the amount of work we would have to do. We knew the smoke box saddle was in a bad way, and to get that out, to fabricate it, we had to take the cylinders off because they bolt through the frames and through the saddle. So cylinders off, got the saddle out, and then found that the corrosion had eaten into the frames as well. So we had to cut sections of the frame out and try and keep the alignment of everything right and the position of the cylinders when we bolted them back on. That took an inordinate length of time to get that right, find the right material spec, the right welding rods and the weld procedure, and put that back together, as well as fabricate a new saddle and put that back together. Once that was done, we had sound foundations then to put everything else onto. So I wouldn't say it's been plain sailing since then, because steam engine restoration is never plain sailing, but that was probably the biggest challenge we've had so far.
Well, the main thing at the moment is to get check all the split pins are in place to stop pins falling out or nuts coming off, vibrating loose, and as many heavier items that we can find that we can fit with no problems, get them done so it all goes off in one lorry, and we're not trying to load up a different lorry with all the spare parts. So this week it's been putting on foot plates. I'm now putting brake hangers on. I'm trying to find bolts for it, and things like that. With people underneath I was in there putting split pins on in yesterday to hold the ends of the springs in place, the pins that hold them in place. So it's very varied at the moment.
So with the 08 now hauling 45163 down the engineering siding as it slowly makes its way to our delivery road, I thought I'd ask Jeremy to give us an insight into what state the loco was in when it arrived and how much a project as large as this has cost them.
A lot of parts were stripped off the engine at Barry, all the non-ferrous stuff. Because ours was one of the last engines to leave Barry, it had been stripped by other groups for spares for their engines, so we've had to source a lot of parts. Some we've been able to find original parts that people had as spares for the engine. Others we've had to make from scratch. They either have to have castings made and then machined. Maybe for some parts patterns have existed, so we've been lucky. Others haven't, so we've had to have patterns made. Some parts are forgings, particularly parts of the motion, so we've had to have new connecting rods and the front half of the coupling rods forged. They then have to be machined. If you're making new parts, you have to find the drawings for them to be made to, so then there's a task to try and track down the relevant drawings. Sometimes they exist, sometimes they don't, so maybe we have to go and measure the parts on another engine and create our own drawings. So that's been quite a challenge. When we started the project, I envisaged it was something like a 10-year project. But it's taken 30 years, and of course over that time with inflation, things have got a lot more expensive now. So I don't know what we've spent to date, probably something in the order of about 300,000, I would say, with the purchase and all the work we've done so far. That includes putting up a building as well. And there was probably at least that to spend again on it, if not more. I would think with the boiler work, it's going to be an expensive part of the project. So yes, I don't know what the final bill will be, but we funded it by just basically mostly the members putting money in to buy shares in the engine, donations, various fundraising activities, collecting scrap metal and selling it for funds. There's a lot of different sources of funding. And we've managed to keep pace with it so far, but again, that was another attraction of doing this long-term agreement with Ian Riley, was that he would then fund the rest of the work and probably some of the most expensive bits to come, so that takes some pressure off us.
Whilst 45163 gets ever closer to being collected, Jeremy explains to us the challenges they faced away from the loco on the siding connecting their shed to the Colne Valley Railway, and how these problems were overcome.
Yes, yeah, nothing's ever straightforward, because the first time anything's moved in or out of this shed for 20 years, and there's a long siding down to the shed, and because for operational reasons for the Colne Valley Railway, the track had been disconnected from the rest of the network at the far end, so that had to be slewed back and reconnected. Blue Star, which is a merchant navy belonging to a different group here, in his unrestored state, has a propensity to come off the track. So that had been stuffed down the siding just outside our shed and left there and not moved for a long time. So because the reluctance to move it very far and the risk of it coming off again, we had to lay a parallel section of track just outside our shed and do a slew so that we could move that onto there and move it out the way, so we had unobstructed access to the shed to move the engine out next week, which has all been done.
And finally, before we watch 45163 depart, I'll leave you with Jeremy to let you know how you can find out more about their project should you wish to donate or even get involved and become a member.
We've got a website, www.45163.co.uk, and we have a Facebook page, the 45163 Restoration Group, so look up either of those and there's contact details on both that you can make contact with us and we can send you information. There's some information on the website you can download as well, and make contact if anyone wants to make a donation or come and get involved.